Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new year of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me today are Jeff Reinke and Anna Wells. We each have more than 15 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Every week, we take the 5 most popular stories on our websites and discuss the implications they have on the industry going forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. Jeff, how are you doing this year?
Great, David.
Yeah?
Haven't heard you say that all year.
I know. It's the first time this year I've said it.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. You write a check yet?
Write a check yet?
Yeah. I just mailed a batch of like really old checks because I didn't realize that. Oh, also I still write checks to pay bills.
I do too, actually.
Yeah, okay.
There's some.
I just and it took me until yesterday to realize I was still writing 24 on them because I'm that guy.
Wait.
Yeah.
So you both like monthly send a check out to whoever?
To pay bills? Yeah.
There are some because, and maybe I should get over this, but there are a couple of different like utility companies that I've done the online billing and they've screwed stuff up. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, no.
Or there's a surcharge?
I'm not going back. No, there wasn't. It was just like they screwed up the billing, they overcharged, or they didn't have the payment on time. So there was a late fee and it was a whole thing. So I'm like, no, I'm just sending a check from now on.
So you like pay your electric bill with a check?
I do,
yeah. But I will say
because they screwed it up before. So
all right,
take that, MG&E.
My reason is that I can remember the amounts that I've paid, and it's easier for me to remember in my head like what our rolling averages are if I've actually made a check. Because I mean, when you pay online with your phone, it's just like pay now, autofill, paid, and then it's just out of sight, out of mind for the next month. Whereas I just have a better understanding if I have to sit down and
I'm okay with that.
Work the books.
Okay, I have a spreadsheet. I just put the number in there when it.
A spreadsheet's in my mind.
All right.
He's the math guy, Anna.
His mind is a spreadsheet. Yeah, I know.
My mind is a spreadsheet. Anna, how you doing this year?
I'm not doing that thing.
You're not going to do that thing?
I think you guys have done it.
I definitely realized that I've been saying that we have more than 15 years of experience for at least 4 years now.
I know.
So we're coming up on like 20 years of experience in this industry.
I just realized that the other day when Jeff and I became Facebook friends.
Okay.
Then I was like, how long have Jeff and I been real friends? And It's 20 years almost, Jeff.
Crazy.
Sorry to tell you that and make you feel sad, but
not at all.
Yeah.
It was actually
it took us 20 years to become Facebook friends.
To make it Facebook official.
Yeah.
20 years, 4 years on a podcast. Well, no, I love that for you guys.
You got to get to know somebody.
Finally, the walls of trust.
Anna's vetting process is intense.
Yep.
I'm going to check my Facebook. All right. Well, before we jump into our first story this week, we have a word from our sponsor, Nextech. This week's episode is brought to you by Nextech. Is your ERP system past its best before date? On average, manufacturing companies hold on to their legacy ERP systems for 8 to 12 years. Using an outdated system hinders operational efficiency, weakens competitiveness, and creates barriers to growth. But one of the biggest hurdles to upgrading is the lack of expertise to guide manufacturers through the transition. Register now to watch a new video podcast to see if your ERP system is past its best before date and what you should do next. You can check out a link in the body copy below and register to check that out on demand right now. Available today. Our first story this week. Toyota opening experimental Futuristic City this fall. Toyota Woven City is a, quote, test course for mobility and a project the automaker has been working on for more than 5 years. Toyota wants to become a mobility company, and the city is a collaboration with Woven by Toyota, the company's software-driven technology subsidiary, to be a testbed. Woven City was announced back at CES 2020. The company broke ground on a test site about a year later, and last October, the company wrapped up construction on Phase 1. Starting this fall, some 360 people, mostly Toyota personnel and relatives, will occupy 50,000 square meters of experimental city. The company hopes to grow that population to 2,000, spread among 708,000 square meters. The city was built on the former site of the Toyota Motor East Japan plant that went offline at the end of 2020 as demand for small vehicles weakened. The old plant is now being renovated into a manufacturing hub to be used by the city's, quote, inventors. The inventors include Toyota employees, external startups, and entrepreneurs. These collaborators can leverage Toyota's manufacturing expertise and Woven's software capabilities to invent new tools and services that can tackle societal changes and, quote, shape a better tomorrow, not just for you and not just for me, but for everybody. That was not the direct quote. Some of the third-party inventors waiting to move in include an HVAC manufacturer testing pollen-free spaces and personalized functional environments, a beverage company working on innovative vending machine concepts, and an instant noodles maker that hopes to create and evaluate new food environments. Toyota has big plans for residents and visitors as well. The company is going to call them Weavers and describes them as individuals who share a commitment to building a more flourishing society. So, Jeff, should I sign you up now, or do you want to wait for phase 2?
I guess I'm missing something here. One of the things that kind of concerned me with this, it gives off a definite communal vibe, which can be kind of frightening because I didn't see anything about how they, like, are you selected? Do you nominate yourself? What if you get there and you don't like it? How does this work out? Because
you can't leave.
It feels like you're sort of locked in. Like, especially if you're a Toyota employee, they're saying, hey, you're going to live here for a bit. Mm-hmm. It does not feel comfortable to me. It feels like this is something that was thought up by an individual who loves to work and wants to know why they can't work more. I want to take my work home and be at work all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
Love you guys. Love what we do here.
Yeah.
But I need a little break from that. So this would definitely not be for me.
Yeah.
I can appreciate sort of the spirit that they're trying to emanate here, but this just feels uncomfortable on a lot of levels.
Yeah.
Me.
No, I agree with you where there is no separation there. And also just how you're already describing people as either an inventor or a weaver. So the society is already built upon this established class system. Which is a little odd for me. And, it's got a couple of red flags. But I mean, for external startups, entrepreneurs, universities, and research institutions, they're invited to Woven City and they can apply through an accelerator program starting in the summer of this year. And it's just, I mean, I get it. I get it if you are that, this is your idea. That was your senior project and you think you're going to be able to spin it out into a business. And really, when you enter an accelerator, you truly are just living that. That's your entire life. I could understand how it would be appealing to that crowd. But yeah, I mean, I
just want more details on, hey, if my mom gets sick, I can leave, right?
Mm-hmm. There's an exit. Yeah. No, I think
more than one person has the key to the door, right?
Yeah, you're permitted one bag. Yeah. All of your belongings are already gone.
Right.
Sold off for the cause.
Right.
Anna, do you see yourself as the inventor or the weaver?
Yeah, I'm not really vibing with this either. And the term city, I think, let's point out also is a bit of a stretch.
It's a commune?
Well, no, it's just,
planned community? It's
like about the size of like your average shopping mall. It's not this sprawling metro compound that they, it's really more of like a much smaller scale for that. And not to minimize the effort, that's a bit of a superlative. And I actually don't really like the term city because, to Jeff's point, it just definitely feels a little bit dismal that way. Like, I mean, we've covered this before, like these on-site dormitories where people are like living and working in the same area and how hard it is on their psyche and people just being miserable.
The nets,
man. Like it doesn't sound great. And the concept that this would be home to inventors who share a commitment to working for someone other than themselves.
Yeah.
To me, it feels like Toyota, a corporation, trying to present this as some sort of altruistic effort when in fact it is like funneling people's skills and time into development for corporations. That's what it is.
No,
you know?
you are giving yourself up for the greater good as long as it's Toyota's good.
Yeah, it feels like exploitative to me if you look at it in that way. I don't know. The weavers and inventors thing, it just felt very cult-like in my opinion.
A little dystopian.
Sort of, yeah. And I don't know. I mean, it's great to improve upon products and technologies with the goal of society in mind, but like pay people to make that happen. You know, that's how that should work. You shouldn't create this weird work-life gray area that, where you're not distinguishing between the two for the good of society. I don't know. It just feels like they're I don't know, promoting their own efforts by kind of taking advantage of people. And I know the people maybe don't see it that way, but I don't love it.
No, and maybe they're not. I mean, maybe that's just us looking at kind of historical track records and trying to read between the lines a little bit.
For sure. And I hope that this is being presented in a way that's maybe not accurate to how it's actually going to work. You know, like maybe it's just being depicted in a way that feels weird to us, but it's because that's not the way that's actually going to be. I don't know.
Yeah, because, there's no idea as to what it's going to cost. According to an interview that some of the execs did with Bloomberg, profitability isn't the goal. And I do like this idea of basically this community working together for advanced product development. But I don't see that and then family in the same sort of sentence. I see, upstart, young, 20-something, late teens, engineers and inventors working nose to the grindstone and enjoying that, sort of that Silicon Valley mentality of we just don't go home. I understand the allure of that to a certain subsection.
But who chooses the projects? If it's not the individual, if it's the corporation, then how is this not just exploiting a workforce?
Well, because Toyota knows what's best for the future.
Oh.
And so what's best for the future is innovative instant noodles experiences.
Yeah.
Apparently robots everywhere.
Yeah.
Like just throughout this city, campus, commune, compound, whatever.
I did find it doubtful that they're like, here, we're opening our doors to these labs and giving you all this equipment to work with, and you just do whatever you want. Like, they're not doing that, right?
No, right.
So they're just saying, like, do what we want you to do, but all the time?
I think there is also a call for, like, if you have a project.
Yeah.
Like, they will hear you out on that.
Yeah, no, it's like any accelerator in theory where you go, you make the pitch, and then if you're in, you're welcomed into the community. And similarly, with an accelerator, there's a shared space, a communal space where everybody works together. It's just the difference is you go home at night.
Yeah.
But that was another thing too, where you're looking at the advancements, working for the future. And that's why when I was reading or when I was looking into this story, I was surprised when you made it to the projects, and it essentially is HVAC, noodles, vending machines, and coffee. And you're just like, I thought the future would be more than that, than a futuristic cafe experience.
Mobility focused.
Yeah. Yeah. How is the future of mobility noodles?
Might be. We'll find out.
Yeah. It's going to blow our minds when it happens. All right. Our next most popular story this week was a Q&A. Why DEI matters in manufacturing. Nolan Beilstein recently conducted an interview with Carla Trotman, the president and CEO of Electrosoft, an electronics contract manufacturer based in Pennsylvania. During the interview, Trotman emphasized the importance of seeing DEI initiatives as a tool, not a weapon, and a tool that can contribute to a company's success. For example, Trotman stresses that companies with homogeneous workforces struggle to adapt to today's diverse world. Trotman starts the interview by saying, quote, "I believe that any and all solid belief systems should be examined, dissected, and discussed. Critical thinking is an important part of both the human experience and operational excellence." So, Let's get into it. Trotman says the most critical argument surrounding DEI is that it, quote, takes jobs away from qualified individuals and awards them to less qualified candidates to check some arbitrary demographic boxes. But Trotman says companies can and should enhance their workforce with qualified people with unique lived experiences, like formerly incarcerated individuals, because they have institutional knowledge of structure and organization, differently abled persons who have to adjust to a world that's just not designed for them, and women who have been forced to conform to various societal roles, yet have the ability to meticulously and successfully execute. Trotman says prioritizing diversity is a cultural shift that requires a change in mindset, not just touting DEI initiatives while doing nothing. There is no need to wave a giant flag around just to be intentional, she says. Just as one would seek 3 bids for a project, be intentional about expanding your candidate pool. And she backs it up. Electrosoft always has at least 4 generations, 4 different languages, and 50% women under its roof. Jeff, can we at least agree that it's the flag waving part that really derailed this otherwise well-intentioned, if not good idea?
I think, I've used this example before when I was in basic training, and the drill sergeant said, excellent initiative, poor execution.
Yeah.
That's DEI in a nutshell to me.
Yeah.
It was in a lot of cases, and you can argue the excellent initiative because there's going to be people out there who say, was it necessary? We always hire the most qualified person. And that's one of the things that Carla Trotman brought out here first and foremost is she's saying it's still about the most qualified person. Yeah. It's just opening yourself up to different walks of life to make sure you're not missing anything out, basically, missing out on anything. And this article I'm a little salty on this one because, and I don't want to over dramatize this, but we had more feedback on this article than a lot of others. Okay. Yeah. I don't want to make it sound like the inbox was overflowing with commentary, but we got a lot of feedback on this from folks. And they were saying stuff like, why is manufacturing.net or industrial media taking a side on DEI? We didn't. We ran an interview.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it comes back to a little bit of the fact that the headline says why DEI matters.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't say why it's, a must-have, a best practice, why it's something you have to do right now.
Yeah.
It matters. It makes an impact. Look at their example. That's all that this was about.
Read past
and when
the
I
headline.
when I tried to engage with these individuals who responded in such a way, I simply asked them, are you frustrated with DEI or the way it was implemented? Mm-hmm. Now, most of them did not have the guts to respond. Okay. And I'll call them out right there. The one that did said both, which is also a cop-out answer.
Yeah.
And this is infuriating to me because all we're talking about here, going back to when we discussed DEI previously, is be better.
Mm-hmm.
Keep everything open. Don't put together ridiculous quotas. Don't, as Trotman said, use check-a-box type approaches to these things. Just keep your mind open to making sure you're getting the best people coming in the door. We have 500,000 manufacturing jobs that are going unfulfilled.
Yeah.
We've got a problem here. Make sure we're getting the best people in the door for your organization so that you can compete and be better going forward. That's all DEI needs to be. We ran a story this week about McDonald's cutting back on their DEI policies. Unnecessary. Yeah. Just do it.
Yeah.
One of the things that she also said here is, again, don't wave the flag, just make it happen.
Yeah.
Just do the right thing.
Yeah.
Be a good person, however you want to implement that or say that. The other thing is when you look at DEI, how these people get so frustrated because they have to go back and they have to admit, number one, this is different. This is new. And also, you know what? I think we did it wrong before. And I think there is this streak of, I'll say it, societal cowardice about just admitting to being wrong. Mm-hmm. Because you have to say, yeah, we did it wrong. We need to adjust fire a little bit and try this differently. And everybody is so anxious about that and so afraid of that it prevents things like this. It can make your organization better. Mm-hmm. It prevents them from doing those things.
Yeah.
Because you have to admit you screwed up.
Yeah.
We have to get past that and just realize there is an easy way to implement these things. Just like with any technology or equipment or software that may have been introduced to your organization before and it didn't work, it wasn't always that technology. Sometimes it was just the way that it was implemented. It wasn't done right. You didn't train people the right way. Same thing here. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look at how it was implemented. That's the problem 99% of the time.
Yeah, I agree that, and I think that the implementation is what has people fired up on all sides because, people want to do right. they sort of put in a lot of framework around how it is supposed to be implemented. And as a result, things kind of go bad other than just look beyond your normal scope. Do things outside of your comfort zone to try and open up yourself and your company to new experiences and new people.
They're so focused on quantifying results of DEI or any of these types of practices that they lose track of what they're actually trying to accomplish, which is to get the most qualified individual in there, regardless of their walk of life. Well, that's what's so infuriating with a lot of these conversations.
But I think part of it too is that the box checkers were the ones waving the flags that were the brightest and the loudest, and that's what caused the problem. Yeah. Because I don't know. And I'm kind of curious to get your feedback on this as well, because I don't know. I think that was how DEI became derailed, right? Is that a lot of good intentions, to Jeff's point, a lot of poor implementation.
I 100% agree about the poor implementation. And, she in the interview mentions Carla about casting a wider net and how your job posting is not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that was so important because, we saw, as Jeff mentioned, so much pushback on this concept of DEI, companies struggling to recruit the people who might fit the diversity goals that they have set. And then therefore, that's their reason to ditch the program entirely, is because we can't fulfill this goal. But what does it look like to go beyond just the job posting, to try to, be intentional about recruiting people with diverse backgrounds? For some companies, it's actively recruiting to target emerging talent from colleges and universities. For some, it's partnering with existing associations and putting yourself out there in women's groups and, groups of differently abled people, things like that. And then, also I think, and I've said this before, but positioning yourself online with clear objectives and putting your best foot forward. So when you do put up that job post and people Google you, they don't come to some like crusty, dusty, old, out of date website and be like, or like something full of jargon where they don't even understand what you do.
Yeah.
Then they don't put in that application.
Yeah. Right.
There's like a lot of missed opportunity that the onus of which is on the company who puts that job posting up to begin with. And it's a crappy posting and they have a crappy online presence and they're targeting the wrong people and they're just not trying hard enough to get there. And so I think like the point is you can't sit back and wait for these diverse candidates to come to you. And then when they don't, blame the candidates when it's the company's fault for not actually putting their arms around this initiative that they have set out to do. And so then you get to the point where you have the argument of it's an arbitrary box to check, but the company doesn't do it right to begin with. So I appreciated that, I think, because I did appreciate her points around like looking at DEI for the benefit that comes from it. And, people coming into your organization that have different perspectives and want to do things in a different way and, maybe bring up things that a very homogeneous group would never have thought of.
Yeah.
That's the goal, right? So it's not just about like trying to do this to do it, to wave the flag. There's a lot of great reasons to do it. And you actually have to get up off your butt and try something different to actually make it work.
Well, I think so much of hiring right now is a LinkedIn job post, an Indeed job post, candidates that are filtered through an initial AI layer before they're even seen by a human, and that already thins the pool so much. So I really wanted to reiterate Trotman's points about broadening your network. That filling a job is not just about post resume applicant. It's about really diversifying how you're into that community, as well as, and you're talking about reaching out to schools, having those relationships with schools, high schools as well, to try and find the younger generation. I really liked that. One of the quotes I pulled out is she said, "If implemented properly, the cultural shift will become an enhancement that cannot be denied." She also mentioned how Gen Z appreciates diversity because younger generations have benefited from technology and borderless connectivity, allowing them to grow with a very inclusive and tolerant mindset. And I don't know, she gave very real world examples as to how it can be done and done correctly. And then she backed it up. She practices what she preaches. She said at Electrosoft, we don't do performative displays of diversity like having potluck days or celebrating unique holidays. Rather, everyone can come to work as their full and natural selves without the fear or stress of trying to fit in. I don't know. I didn't think you could say it any better than that or do it any better than that. And when it comes to anecdotal real world examples, there are members of my family that work in these very diverse firms, and they have to work with individual clients all over the nation. And sometimes one person at that company is a better fit for that client than a different person. Mm-hmm. And if they had a homogeneous workforce, they might not be able to serve that client because, it's not one size fits all. And that example came up over the holidays, and I was just like, that is something we just talked about in this Q&A. But no, I really want to give a lot of credit to Nolan and Carla Troutman for this Q&A because I thought it was very well done and very necessary. All right, our next most popular story this week. Fruit juice executive pleads guilty for selling tainted beverages to school programs. The week before Christmas, Marianne Bleisner, an 83-year-old former president and owner of Valley Processing, pleaded guilty to charges related to the manufacture and sale of tainted fruit juice products in violation of federal food safety laws. Bleisner operated a now-shuttered fruit juice facility in Sunnyside, Washington. During an FDA visit in May 2018, VPI employees stopped investigators from entering a room that held concrete storage vats. The workers told FDA investigators the room was unsafe to enter and contained no juice or juice products. Not only did that room store juice, but it was often old, unsold grape juice concentrate, sometimes held for years in large concrete vats that were not properly covered or cooled. When investigators got hip to these vats, they entered the room and found grape juice contaminated with bird and rodent feces, fur, insects, decaying remains of animals, mold, yeast, and other contaminants.
What other contaminants are left?
I don't know. That's why, when they say other contaminants, I feel like the list is very long. Ugh. Where they're just like, all right, we're going to give you the gross ones, like decaying remains of animals, and just leave some of the others. I mean, because, there's probably like paper clips in there too. Leaves, other pine duff. FDA inspectors even saw a live rat walking across the hardened crust on top of the vat. Ugh. In November 2020, the government filed a complaint to stop VPI from making any juice products. In January 2021, Bleisner agreed to an injunction and VPI shut its doors. Then finally, in September 2022, a federal grand jury indicted Bleisner and VPI on 12 counts of fraud and food safety crimes. Last month, as part of her guilty plea, Bleisner admitted to conspiring to distribute tainted and potentially unsafe juice from October 2012 to June 2019, nearly 7 years. VPI blended grape juice concentrate that was stored outside for years with newer grape juice concentrate and sold it as a newer product. Some of the contaminated products were even sold to customers who supplied the National School Lunch Program, which gives kids free or reduced cost lunches. Bleisner and VPI agreed to pay $742,000 as a criminal forfeiture. Bleisner will face a sentencing hearing in March. She was originally looking at some 20 years. Anna, the acts of Bleisner and Valley Processing are staggering. How do you even live with yourself if you run or work for this company?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this story was hard to read. And I will say I had never actually heard the term food safety crimes before.
Yeah. Very fitting.
For sure, yeah. I looked into that and I learned that the designation was actually established in 2020 by the National Food Crime Unit. It includes 7 categories: theft, illegal processing, waste diversion, adulteration, substitution, misrepresentation, and document fraud. So just so you know. I think one of the scariest things about this was that the DOJ said that Grape Road facility where the vats were stored was completely unregistered, completely off the books. Now, that's something I think that a company owner or a leader could get away with doing, maybe without the employees knowing that paperwork was not filed.
You'd think it's legit, yeah.
Right. But the fact that the employees put caution tape over the doors and they lied to investigators about what the contents were in there, tried to prevent them from entering that room. What in God's name is happening there then? That's what really got to me, that this level of pathological indifference had somehow spread from the company leader, owner, Marianne Bleisner, to the employees as well. Yeah. I mean, if it's one thing if it's like this one person pulling the strings, I guess, but like the fact that she was able to get some complicit employees here was really mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
And the fact that there was no whistleblower, it sounds like this came up somehow via the FDA. And I can't even believe that. It's just unbelievable to me that there was not somebody there that said, this is not right.
There should have been one worker that was just like, be my guest. Because,
right.
I mean, it's a food product with decaying animal remains in it.
Yeah, I know. And what was even stranger to me is, so, you noted the timeline, 2012 till 2019. In 2020, Mary Ann Bleisner tried to sell this company and did. Mm-hmm. She did. And so I can retire was basically her reason. So maybe that's why it stopped in 2019, but it kind of blows my mind as well that the due diligence on that sale was not better, because I can't imagine purchasing this company and not.
Oh my God. Talk about the need for a lemon law.
Because there's no way, but really, I mean, there's no way that this one facility with the caution tape is the only problem this company has.
Yeah.
There's no way that their other production processes are completely above board, and this one is just like outlandishly, egregiously terrible.
Yeah.
It's the only thing, like just our skeletons in our closet that we sell to the children. Like,
yeah.
It was just. The whole thing was just disgusting and horrifying. And by the way, if the school lunch program thing doesn't get you, which it should.
Yeah, it should.
But there was some local reports too that mentioned that customers also included Safeway, Kroger, and Jamba Juice. Mm-hmm. So people were paying a premium for this.
Yeah. And Langer's was the other one. It was that was the one that got me too, because as a former user of the free and reduced lunch program, I was just like, come on, you already know that things are not going great, and we're going to get your tainted rat feces juice. Gross. Just disgusting. But Jeff, we talk about how slow it is for regulators to already get in, see a problem, and then shut it down. And let's just say we're not moving into an era of more regulation.
Well, that remains to be seen. But yeah, and I'll get to that in a little bit. So first of all, I'm going to preface this by saying I am not trying to in any way, shape, or form justify anything that happened here. Okay?
Oh, no.
I am not, no. Okay? No. But whenever I see these stories, kind of like what Anna was talking about, you're just trying to get into the mindset. Like, how could somebody allow this to happen? How could you know about this and think like, it's all right, we're okay? I found an interview with Mary Ann Bleisner. It was done by the SunnysideSun.com, which is like the local paper. Did you see this?
Oh, I didn't. I don't know if I saw the interview, but I did see another report on her when she did something for like the Rotary Club or something there.
So basically this happened. This was in December of 2020 when they did this interview. So this was after everything. They shut her down. She sold the company and all that. And they were going through and they were trying to paint like her as this female business owner who overcame all of these other things, but now she had to shut it down because all these bad things happened.
Oh.
So it was a very weird way to try to weight this story. Yeah. It was like you could tell the author was trying to be forthcoming,
Yeah.
but try to also tell a little bit of her story.
Yeah, like local leader, Marianne Bleisner, victim of her own success.
Not even a victim, but just like, well, she did screw up.
Oh, okay.
But in going through this, and they interviewed her as well as another like plant manager type. And when they're talking about it, you can almost feel how you can almost sell yourself anything on anything or convince yourself, because they talked about all the processes that all the juice went through in terms of how it's purified and filtered and cleaned and all this other stuff before it got to the end user. And all these different pricing pressures they were under, and how it took so long when they had to go to the orchards and get all the fruit, and it was so time sensitive and resource consuming. And they did all of this and still were able to employ like 90 people at this facility. Again, I think in their minds, because they had made all these other investments, it wasn't that bad. Like, we're running it through all of this heat treatment and filtering and stuff. I mean, it's taken out all that stuff. I mean, that's why we bought the equipment, right?
Yeah.
I honestly think that is how they tried to justify this in their own minds. It's the only thing I can come up with. How again, I'm not saying I'm on board. I'm just saying trying to get into that mindset. That's all I could even come up with.
No, that's a very good or interesting perspective, because I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking there must have been, because I was also wondering, how is this not on any of the bottlers, right? How is this not on the Jamba Juices and the Kroger's, like not on them, but like, how did they not catch these things? So I figured that, wow, they must have done a great job mixing it and cleaning it, because there has to be some sort of testing at any of those major manufacturers or bottlers to, in terms of quality control, right?
I mean, you would have thought, but obviously it didn't work. I mean, this stuff was still getting through and it was tainted in every which way possible. So,
well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
but if they're selling a finished product to a grocer,
yeah,
the grocer isn't going to.
They're not testing that stuff.
Well, no, the bottlers though, like, so the contract manufacturers, wouldn't they test the product at some point?
Yeah,
I would think. I don't know, just because. I mean, transportation, whatever you want to make sure. I figure there's another layer there. Maybe not.
Maybe.
I could be wrong. So that was because the product was tainted at the facility, but that's what I was saying. Like it never tested in any actual finished product, right?
You're right.
Yeah. But I mean, again, in no way defensible. Like the only thing they didn't find was human remains in it.
Yeah. I think the other thing that caught my attention too with this story, in addition to just how ridiculously disgusting it was 2018 when they went into the taped off room.
Yeah.
It took them 2.5 years to shut this place down.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Yeah. No, emergency stop. There needs to be a procedure where if you see that, you turn the lights off and escort everybody outside and just say, we'll take it from here.
And I mean, we've done, looked into some of these other areas where does the Department of Justice get involved with some of these OSHA and FDA inspections? And it takes a lot. Usually it's more like a chemical company or something like that. But obviously this would have been warranted here with your poisoning people. The other thing that this sort of brought to mind too is we're hearing a lot now with the Trump administration coming in, both RFK as well as the Department of Government Efficiency have targeted the FDA. Now they're looking at a lot of inefficiencies more on the drug side. Yeah. But when they talk about reducing personnel within the FDA, that's going to include food inspectors.
Yeah.
This is a case study of why we need more of these folks out there and why we need to support them. So let's be smart there.
No, I agree. A couple of other reports that I saw, they weren't selling to just juice bottling companies, but did you see they were also selling to like jelly manufacturers?
No.
So
concentrate. Yep.
Yeah. Also, another good reason to not eat jelly. So, so this plant.
What?
Another of the many.
Oh, that's right. This is fruit.
Many reasons.
Type thing.
Yeah. If you want fruit, just eat the fruit. The plant was a former turkey processing plant. And I caught that one. Somebody commented on the site just because I thought that this story, similar to how the DEI story sparked the interest of our readership, this one did as well. Almost all of them in the top 5 really had a lot of feedback and a lot of people that kind of went out to other sources and found a little bit more about the story. So I thought it was interesting that it used to be a turkey processing plant. And you're right, looking at that Sunnyside, what was it called? The Sunnyside Report or something like that.
Sunnyside Sun.
Sunnyside Sun.
Yeah, they're
.com.
Definitely showing Bleisner as a local business leader,
Yeah. They were, you could tell the author was put in a very awkward position.
Yeah. And I reports I read said 65. You said 90 plus employees. There has to be someone in there, Anna, that is just like, okay, we can't.
What are we doing?
We can't. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's in the room? What's like, maybe it was only the 2 workers that were like the guards. Don't let anyone in here till it's bottling time. All right. Our next most popular story this week. Manufacturing exec gets 3 years for chill can factory fraud scheme. Gary Savage Sr. of Huron, Ohio, and his Nevada-based company, Coast to Coast Chill, were sentenced last Monday after pleading guilty earlier this year to multiple counts of securities fraud and theft. Savage was sentenced to more than 3 years of incarceration and 18 months of parole. Savage has been held since he was arrested in August 2022, and he was given credit for time served. He was also ordered to pay nearly $3 million in restitution to company investors. So what happened? On November 26, 2024, Savage pleaded guilty individually and on behalf of his company to 23 counts related to an investment scheme that saw Savage pay himself and repay other investors with inappropriately diverted funds. Coast to Coast Chill was supposed to invest the funds into the Joseph Company International to build a manufacturing plant in Youngstown, Ohio, to make self-chilling beverage cans. According to WKBN, Savage's chill can plant hoped to establish a cutting-edge canning operation in Youngstown. The factory remains empty. The city also sued the company and prevailed in winning back tax incentives and other funds awarded to the project. The site could soon be auctioned off as a foreclosure case against the company, and hopefully it'll come to a close soon. Anna, is this just another casualty of the pandemic, or are there other reasons that the chill can fizzled out?
The chill can, yeah. I had no idea that this was a thing ever in history.
No, me neither.
I had to do some research to understand whether or not it was a real product at all. Mm-hmm. Or if this guy was just running that type of smoke and mirrors. Turns out that the chill can was developed. The concept behind it is levering a technology basically where you twist the bottom of the package and it chills a can extremely quickly and dramatically, like 30 degrees fast. Yeah. So the future of cans. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can see why people were like, whoa. In 2018, 7-Eleven rolled out a trial basically using its proprietary physics sparkling cold brew coffee in a can in what they said at the time was the first self-chilling can available to the public in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And I read the press release on this, and I would like to share with you guys the instructions on how to use the chill can to make it clear why this never took off, in my opinion. So
it's not just open and drink it?
It's not just open and drink it. It is the following. So they start by saying chilling the can is simple. There's 4 steps. Step one.
So wait, that's 3 more steps than putting it in the refrigerator, right?
That is correct, Jeff.
Okay,
yep, there are 4 steps, 4 easy steps.
I'm excited.
Step 1. Place the can on a flat surface. Turn the can upside down and twist the base to activate until a constant hissing noise can be heard. Step 2. Do not handle or touch the can after activation until the hissing stops. The warmth of being handheld can inhibit the cooling process. Step 3, do not turn can right side up until hissing stops, about 75 to 90 seconds. And step 4, once the hissing stops, return the can to an upright position, open and enjoy. So there's a lot in there about hissing.
Yeah. A lot of hissing.
Just a lot of hissing taking place.
And I don't like don't touch it for 2 minutes.
Don't handle it.
Don't touch it.
Until the hissing stops.
Yeah. It's too cold to hold.
It's too cold to hold.
Too cold to hold.
I don't know. It's sounding really balmy to me.
And like borderline dangerous just to have around children. I don't like it just like what's happening in there. So I get the concept of on-demand cooling and how it might be desirable for certain instances, like if you're going into the woods and camping and you don't have a refrigerator or something. I don't know. The tech was said to be the first to employ technology that didn't emit greenhouse gases. So clearly other people have tried this concept before.
Okay.
However, I just feel like there is too much hissing. it's hard, it's hard to know if this was viable or not, just based on the fact that, obviously the events that you detailed there, it really brought to mind, well, was this, somebody who just was kind of just running out the clock on whatever flash in the pan idea? Because it seemed like if you think about the on-demand chilling mechanism, who is buying that? That's it's a cold coffee that you buy, but it's not cold, but there are refrigerators available.
Yeah.
So, I just feel like it's a smaller segment than, there are a lot of people who go to buy a cold coffee and they just buy it out of the fridge and then they drink it.
Yeah, no, this is for a very specific, that guy in every office or that woman in every family, where they go and they buy it and they hold on to it for the 2-hour journey to their destination and then wait for the most amount of people to be in the room and just oh, you know what? I forgot I brought this.
Yeah.
I wanted to enjoy this. Crack.
Hiss for 90 seconds.
90 seconds of hissing.
Yeah, don't touch it.
Get your kids away.
And and if you're not looking for that specific thing, why would you buy it? It would be more of a turnoff to you than anything, right? And it's probably more expensive because it's all this dramatic technology is probably very heavy. I don't think that it has the legs necessarily to make it long term. And so that, I don't know if that's why this guy kind of just crashed and burned in the middle of his growth trajectory.
Yeah.
Or maybe he was just a schemer to begin with, but it just seemed like a bad business to be in.
Oh, there were so many things, many things about this story. But I will say things that make sense, right? NASA was a backer of the technology and the U.S. Army was a backer of the technology. That makes sense. You're deployed. You're in the middle of nowhere. You want a cold beverage. I understand that. You're on a space station.
Yeah.
And you want a cold fizzy drink.
You can tolerate the hissing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It makes sense, but for the general public, I think there's a ceiling. There's a ceiling. But, talking about unraveling some of the layers of this, Jeff, this Savage guy doesn't exactly have a good track record. And let's just say that Youngstown, Ohio, at the time was going through a transitional phase.
Yeah, Gary Savage Sr., a real piece of human garbage, to be clear.
Okay.
This was not his first time. There was another situation brought up here. He was basically suspended by any financial industry regulatory authority members. So basically, if you were involved with any high finance or securing investments with any reputable company, he could not be involved with that.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. He was fined $30,000. There's $500,000 in punitive damages that were paid off prior to his whole encounter with this company.
What was the previous scheme?
It didn't go into a ton of detail. Basically, he just did not. Basically, to sum it up, he didn't provide enough detail on things that were going on. There were disclosures that he needed to provide his customers that he hid from them.
Oh, okay.
Probably maybe things weren't going great.
Yeah.
And he was going to steal their money. Something like that, I would guess.
Maybe something that rhymes with schmonzy.
Doesn't seem like something he'd do.
Yeah. Just not a good guy. So with the whole Joseph company, though, too, this is a decade plus they've been dealing with this can. And I think their whole overarching goal was to basically get away from refrigeration. So if you are a 7-Eleven or, maybe I wanted to bring some Mountain Dew in and just keep it in my office, I didn't have to plug in a refrigerator. Think of all the energy costs we could be saving there.
Right.
Sure. So I think that's kind of where he was going from or where this technology started. But what happened is they were getting Youngstown, Ohio super fired up about this technology and building this plant. The city put over $1.5 million into special subsidies to renovate this facility or to build the facility. They were promising 250 jobs coming from this. So there was a lot of optimism that was funneling into this whole initiative. And then you get a guy like Gary Savage involved here, who basically, at the crux of where they needed to start raising money to figure out what they were going to do next, just stole everything. And not only did he basically put the kibosh on, regardless of how you feel about this can, really this whole company, this business, and impacted this community as well. Definitely a case study in knowing who you're working with before you start committing dollars and getting people excited about potential business opportunities.
I'll say when it comes to business opportunities, around the same time, a lot of the local leadership experienced some turnover, let's say, as a result of picking some winners and maybe diverting some funds themselves. So Youngstown was already in a bad situation. But I mean, you're right. They promised to build a $20 million campus and almost immediately ran into problems that were likely as a result of the local corruption. They found out that there was problems with all the infrastructure in the area. They found out there were problems with the site. I mean, everything after the announcement was bad. You know, this was like chill can Foxconn, only, you know, just a little bit smaller.
Well, no, it's a good analogy. Actually, there's a great article on ProPublica.org talking about the Youngstown chili can. It goes into great depth. I mean, they were moving people out of houses and buildings. I mean, it was a ton that Youngstown was trying to do to attract this company.
That's terrible.
It is. It was.
No, and I don't know if anyone went to jail for it, but I know that a lot of the local leaders wound up in a lot of trouble as a result of it. I mean, on a consumer side of things, right? It had every possible red flag from a beverage product, right? There were words misspelled with X's and Z's. I mean, when you spell physics, Fizzics, I get it. I get it. But like also when the entire back of the can looks like fine print, but it's really the extremely detailed, like 4-step sequence to activate the can. I don't know. I'm just like, oh, look at this can. What is this? What do I have to do? Don't touch it. My God, put it back. I mean, and I don't know what it cost per can, but it looked like, I don't know. It looked like some sort of novelty that came with a new age board game, you know, like some sort of new timer. Like
you
when
try
the hissing stops, you got to stop with the categories.
Yeah, you try it once and then.
Yeah. But again, certain applications, sure, I get it. But I would definitely, I mean, if there hasn't been a book written about this entire situation, I'm sure there are plenty. But
yeah, it could be a good movie.
Yeah.
Chilling the Can is Simple is the title.
Just chilled.
Wait until the hissing stops is actually the title.
Physics. It'll give you chills. Our most popular story this week, single worker blamed for recall of 23,000 Kias. The NHTSA recently announced a recall issued by South Korean automaker Kia because critical fasteners are missing on certain vehicles. Kia is going to recall more than 23,000 2024-2025 EV9 SUVs because the second and third row seat mounting bolts might be missing. That's the one that keeps the seat attached to the car. And Kia is blaming the entire problem on a single factory worker. The NHTSA says, quote, a plant assembly worker was responsible for applying the bolts at the Kia Autoland assembly plant in South Korea. After a customer complaint, random testing found 2 more vehicles, all of which were traced back to the same individual on the production line. The recall involves tens of thousands of SUVs because the period in which this particular worker was responsible for the fastening stretched an entire year from September 2023 to October 24. Kia says the bolt issue could cause seats to come loose in an accident. The automaker stresses that you might know that your car is impacted if the seat feels loose or if you can hear a rattling noise. Anna, in a surprising turn of events, many of our readers actually came out to this specific worker's defense. And it is wild to me that a recall reads like, you know, if it's got a little wiggle, maybe bring it in. You know, just like, but I mean, how is that? I don't know. I guess, you know, we bought a new car. I don't think anyone sat in the third row yet, so we wouldn't know if the mounting bolts are no good. I mean, yeah, just give it a sit.
Give it a sit. Yeah, I was not as surprised that people came to the workers' defense because to me, this felt a little bit like sleight of hand from Kia. I think they don't want to suggest that there is a system-wide manufacturing quality problem in their factories. So this person is made into a scapegoat. However, it is precisely the fact that a sole person could act without running into another layer of QC for a full year that I think does point to a systematic quality problem within their manufacturing plants. I don't know if you guys remember, but we covered a similar story back in 2022 on one of our very first episodes of the podcast. Yeah. It was a situation that took place at Subaru, and there too, the company blamed an improper torque wrench technique.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
On a single employee.
Yeah.
And in that case, it impacted only 383 vehicles, which is what makes the situation at Kia seem all the more egregious when you consider just how long it went on and how many more vehicles were involved. But even more so when you pair this. So I was looking into the kind of year that Kia and Hyundai had in 24. And Kia's partner company, Hyundai, also in February announced a recall because they said valve springs may have been incorrectly manufactured, leading to, a callback of 4,000 vehicles. That situation led Auto Evolution to say, quote, "It is rather curious that the supplier's quality control did not catch this flaw in a timely fashion." Mm-hmm. I agree. I mean, both incidents took place at separate South Korean plants, but I think they obviously raise a few red flags when you consider that there seems to be no kind of final inspection, taking place. And these seats, as you said, could dislodge from the vehicle, or in the case of the valve springs, they said that they could result in the loss of engine power and even a hole in the engine block. Like, these are very serious safety issues, to me, that's the cause for concern here, is that Kia blaming one worker really distracts from what is potentially a bigger problem, unfortunately. And I think there is a bigger problem there. There has to be some sort of, even if it's a random, vehicle selection, every 10th vehicle that comes off the line, you're checking every single thing, every bolt. Mm-hmm. That's not happening.
Yeah.
And you'd think that they're learning that lesson maybe back in February when it's happening at Hyundai, but clearly not. So,
yeah. Well, and maybe part of the issue is that, I think it was with the initial complaint, they pulled 90 and couldn't find anything. And so I don't know if it was then a second customer complaint when they all of a sudden had to recall the 23,000. Like, I'm not sure the timeline, but it is. So maybe like sometimes random checks just don't catch it because, if there are a few in there, like, I don't know. I was trying to think the same thing too, because you would think that there would be some sort of additional layer that would be like, hey, did you put on the back seat? Because it's got a little English in it, I don't know. So I find that surprising. Like, but I don't want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Your car's still falling apart in an accident.
Yeah.
Jeff, is this sort of just an issue when you are the low cost alternative that you're going to, maybe cut a corner or two to like be that low cost alternative? I don't know. I'm trying to think.
No, I mean, this is systematic, just like Anna was talking about here. I mean, if you can point it back to one person, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Something as complex as a car, come on.
Yeah.
There should be more redundancies here. This reminded me of that story we did where that tool was left in the jet engine compartment.
Yeah.
It's like, because the one guy checked the box, so the next guy just thought, hey, we're good to go.
Yeah.
No, come on. There's got to be some common sense here. It is impressive that we could trace it back just to that from an accountability perspective, from a traceability perspective. That is, being able to find that root cause issue is very impressive here. But to point the finger at a single worker, that just makes you look small, makes you look lesser than, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's a systematic breakdown, and you got to own it.
I don't feel like he's going to get he or she's going to get a golden parachute either for taking the fall on this one.
Well, at least they didn't call the individual out by name. I mean, that would have been really, really pathetic.
Yeah, one bad apple.
Yeah.
Recleaned house. It's all good now. So, if you have a Kia, maybe a Hyundai as well, just after work,
Wouldn't you think
a shake.
Wouldn't you think there'd be some sort of issue too with the hardware? Wouldn't they be counting that as well to make sure everything was installed? I mean, that would just be another systematic check.
Good point. That should be like a kitted item, right?
Yeah.
So that you have put everything into the vehicle that you're supposed to.
Yeah, or maybe it was a tool failure. I don't know.
If not, there should be.
Yeah. I mean, could it have been a tool failure? Like, I don't know. I guess I'm just grasping at straws here. But either way, it's not a good look, to both your points, for an automaker that has already had some issues over the years. All right. Before we jump into, in case you missed it, the stories that are not as popular but still stand to make a big impact on the industry going forward, we have another word from our sponsor, Nextech. This week's episode is brought to you by Nextech. Is your ERP system past its best before date? On average, manufacturing companies hold on to their legacy ERP systems for 8 to 12 years. Using an outdated system hinders operational efficiency, weakens competitiveness, and creates barriers to growth. But one of the biggest hurdles to upgrading is the lack of expertise to guide manufacturers through the transition. Register now to watch a new video podcast to see if your ERP system is past its best before date and what to do next. You know what's crazy about that, Anna, is that I slipped on competitiveness on both the first and second read. It was good. It was good.
You should be practicing in front of the mirror.
I should be. Just, man,
But David, it's the first time you've done that all year.
I know. It's been so long. Actually, it feels like we haven't done a podcast in a while. Like, and I'm both energized. It's like that first day back when you have a couple of weeks off. That first day back, you're like, let's get after it. And then you're like, what is for lunch? I need to get out of here. And it's 9:52.
Yep.
You're just like, oh, all right. But, you know, still better than full-time childcare. All right. In case you missed it, the stories that weren't as popular on our websites like Industrial Equipment News or manufacturing.net. And, you know, tell you why. Has it been a minute?
You did forget. You did forget how to do it.
Has it been a minute? You should. I did another interview the other day, and I looked like a cat batting at a toy, just smacking this thing all over the place. And he's like, is this a new setup? I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not really.
Just keep them locked in. All right. I'll go first this week if you guys are cool with it. The story that I picked, I roll from Jeff. What do you got, Jeff? Panasonic develops molding material that is fully marine biodegradable. So, plastic pollution, diminishing petroleum resources, and global warming have contributed to a global demand for reducing resin use. Since 2015, Panasonic Holdings Corporation has been working on reducing the use of petroleum-derived resins. In 2019, Panasonic HD developed a composite process technology that incorporated cellulose fiber at a concentration of 55%. By 2021, it was up to 70%. By March 2022, it reached more than 90% biomass content. Well, this week, Panasonic announced a new molding material with complete marine biodegradability by incorporating highly concentrated cellulose fiber derived from plants into resins. By adding this plant-derived cellulose fiber at high concentrations to these resins, the molding material has suitable mechanical properties and biodegradability. And Panasonic plans to start selling the new material by 2027, targeting applications like household appliance casings, automotive parts, consumer goods, and I think most importantly, food and beverage containers. Now, the reason I picked this story was because one thing I learned about was that when I heard the term biodegradable, I thought that meant no matter where it was biodegradable. But I didn't know that things that were designed to be completely biodegradable in soil have a hard time decomposing in water. I didn't know that.
Sure.
So I chose this story because it has a potential to be pretty game-changing when it comes to, like I said, if only the food and beverage container market, just because when we see so much waste, it's from there in particular. There are consumer goods, you know, when it comes to automotive parts and household appliance casings, it could make a big impact as well. But the first two would be really big. And by modifying the mixing and molding technologies, Panasonic developed this molding material that now has 100% biomass content, and it has complete biodegradability in marine environments, and it has comparable strength to polypropylene used in durable applications. So, and I mean, I think it's pretty clear why I chose the story, just because we have a problem with plastics, and we are looking for our solution with moldable plastics. And granted, it was just one cup that they showed as an example that was made with this, and I didn't get a chance to use it or touch it or feel it, because you feel like maybe a cup that's biodegradable in water. I don't know. How long can you keep water in it? But I don't know. I think it could have a real impact on the industry going forward. Did you get a chance to check this one out?
Yeah, I did. And it was very exciting to me as well, because we've talked about this in the past, but it seems that behavior changes are the hardest for the general populace. We've all become very accustomed to like takeaway containers, plastic, single-use items. So for advancements in materials to take some of the problematic elements out of that are really exciting to me. And obviously, there's a huge hill to climb when it comes to affordability and scale and all of that. I get that. But to be in a place where it is durable and comparable in strength and application, like that's great. That's really exciting. So hopefully we'll see some more development here, maybe get those costs down and see if it could be put to use.
Well, it is in a traditional pellet form, like people are used to in the industry. Those pellets come in white, but they can be dyed different colors depending on what you're trying to make. Jeff, one thing I like too is that, at any step here, they could have stopped and marketed, right? You have one that's 55%, you have one that's 70%, you still have, a marketable product. But, over the years worked towards developing this new material, and in the next 2 years, we should be able to see something with made of 100% biomass. I think that's pretty exciting, don't you?
Yeah, like the the applications that they talk about here too: consumer goods, beverage and food containers, automotive parts. Those are things where we regularly run into these issues with plastics from a recyclability perspective. The thing that I would be really excited about too is once we start getting these areas perfected, moving into what I think is the biggest area when we look at those single-use plastics, which is pharmaceuticals and medical devices.
Oh yeah.
If we can ever formulate these biodegradable resins to the point where they're medical grade, then we're really going to see some impact in terms of reducing that from the waste flow and from the landfills and all that.
Well, and another reason this kind of stood out to me was yesterday when I picked up my son off the bus, right? It was just after garbage day, and I was, let's just say our garbage collection service isn't batting 100%, right? Yeah. And so he's just like, why are you picking up garbage? And it was in the gutter or on the side of the road. And I was just like, well, do you see that that hole in the road right there? If we don't pick this up, if there's any water, this garbage is going to flow into that sewer, and then it's going to wind up in our water. And just kind of seeing him like, the garbage is going to end up in our water. I'm like, well, there's a lot of garbage in our water. But I don't know. I just think the applications like this really could have a potential impact.
100%.
Anna, what's your in case you missed it this week?
I picked the story about Hyundai selling cars on Amazon now.
Yeah.
So according to the report, car buyers around the U.S. can now browse, order, and finance any new Hyundai vehicle through participating dealers directly on Amazon Autos. Amazon's online vehicle sales experience is available nationally in 54 markets, which represents 71% of Hyundai's current sales volume is in those markets. It's creating another way for Hyundai dealers to build awareness and offer more convenience to customers. Additional markets will continue to roll out through the year. So basically, you can browse and search for available vehicles, get an instant valuation on your trade, select your car, secure financing. You can pay on Amazon, and then schedule a pickup time at the dealership. And the headline was kind of like a whoa headline.
Yeah.
But for me, I was just wondering if the market really needs this. Mm-hmm. To me, it's not bringing that much more to the table than the other vehicle marketplace options that already exist that are also struggling to be profitable, by the way. And there are quite a few of those. And then to me, Amazon's advantage really lies in their logistics and their SKU count, neither of which really apply here. So I don't know. Is it necessary? I just feel like it's not. But what did you guys think about this?
I thought it was. I don't think it's necessary because I am also never the person that's going to just buy a car off the internet. It's someone in the office bought one off the internet. It was a lemon, and then that just solidified my belief in never doing that. Just like, how did you not know it didn't have cruise control? Oh, well, it didn't say that. And so for me, this makes sense because, as you said, all those other services are struggling to make money. Amazon certainly isn't. Mm-hmm. And so if there's anyone that can prove whether or not this model can work, I think it is an Amazon. But yeah, in terms of how many people are going to take advantage of it, I don't know. But I mean, maybe that's what, newer generation, maybe Generation Alpha and Generation Beta, which just started this month, maybe that's
how they want to buy a car.
Maybe that's how they want to buy a car. I mean, we talk about how Like 70% of people can't even talk on the phone. You know, so many percent of people don't want to communicate in any other way other than text. And maybe some people get legitimate anxiety thinking about going to a dealership, talking to a salesperson, and buying a car. You know, I'm sure they exist. So I don't know, Jeff. What about you? You wanna?
I think it says two things. Number one, I think it just shows how ingrained Amazon has become into our day-to-day lifestyle. Like there are definitely people probably who are like, sweet, I'm going there to order toilet paper anyway, so now I can get a car too.
Yeah.
You know, I think this fits right into their mindset of how they want to function on a day-to-day. The other thing is, again, you guys have touched on it, it's just further customizing that purchasing process based on the consumer and what they want. It's just another way to do it. Me personally, no.
Yeah.
I wouldn't advocate for it. I think anytime you make a big ticket purchase, you should see it. You should like go there, put your hands on it.
Man, one of my conversation starters also at holiday parties was the 15-minute Amazon delivery, and just overwhelmingly people were into it. I was surprised by how many people were like, super necessary. Let me know when it starts.
It's not going to work here.
Just saying, a lot of people want it. More people than people that I thought I was just going to be like, hey, what's up? You're on my side, right? Nope. Okay. How about you? Nope. Okay. Here's this other story we covered. Jeff, what's your in case you missed it this week?
So I picked a story that we posted actually before Christmas, and it's a story called IoT Security is MIA. So basically, this past year, the Office of Government Accountability was tasked with speaking to other federal agencies and having these agencies submit a list of all the IoT devices that they use. Mm-hmm. So basically, any types of vulnerability or any devices that could be potentially hacked or are vulnerable, they just wanted a list.
Yeah.
Well, that was not great because as it turned out, there were 3 agencies that were not able to finish these inventories by the deadline, which was September 30th. 6 didn't do it and didn't know when they would get done. And then we had of all of them, we had the Small Business Administration that said, we don't have any IoT devices.
Oh.
What?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a real thing.
Huh.
So we got a blog from John Terrell. He's the Chief Information Security Officer at Phosphorus Cybersecurity. And he went through this and just kind of laid out a lot of very interesting facts, okay? And some of the things he talked about is the first issue with these and other enterprises is understanding the problem. The first step is understanding the problem is the first step in solving it. So knowing that a fundamental misunderstanding regarding the problem facing federal IT organizations exists because everyday devices share the same networks as critical but less visible devices. So we can talk about stuff like it's not just robots and meters and things like that, but they can include everyday integral devices like printers, cameras, desk phones, HVAC controls. All of these things are IoT devices. And a lot of folks who are running these government agencies just don't appreciate and understand that this is a hackable device. So then he gets into why that's a problem, obviously, but also offers some solutions, which is tapping into an organization like CISA, which is a government agency that is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. He also talks about producing something called Tiger Teams, which would be able to essentially work as an umbrella IT organization for all of the government to help us be better at defending our cybersecurity vulnerabilities, essentially, all of these different devices. I thought this was really interesting because while we want to pick on the government here, this could have been a manufacturing case study as well. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of manufacturers out there who simply just don't appreciate how interconnected everything is. From the office to the IT side to the OT side, all of these different devices, if you're connected to anything on the internet, that's not only a gateway out, that's also a gateway in. Yeah. And if they can get in one spot, they can worm their way into any part of your operation. So I thought it was interesting to use the case study again of the government agencies not even understanding what their inventory was and how that can help us get better as well on the manufacturing side.
Well, when you mention things like sensors, phones, cameras, HVAC systems, I think that you think, okay, that there might be some sort of smart aspect, some sort of connectivity there. But for me, I think one that might fly under the radar, label printers.
Right.
You know, I think people might think of a label printer and just, it's just sitting on your desk waiting for you to weigh something and ship it, and not really think about like, oh no, that is a connected device that could be hacked. So I think it's really good to learn more about this, because what was the part? So they said at Phosphorus, they've observed billions of these IoT, OT devices, so they know how many there should be in a given space. And what was wild, so in an office environment similar to that of many civilian federal workforce workers, there should be 3 to 5 devices per employee or contractor. So they're talking about there are 2 million civilian employees within the federal government. So that means around 6 to 10 million IoT, OT devices that are out there, federal government, right? But think about that. Think of just think about in our office, we got a small office of 16. If you say an average of 5 devices, that means,
And that's not looking at the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's where this sort of, can keep rolling as well. When you look at industrial assets, okay, when you look at government agencies, we can get into utilities. And then it gets really scary in terms of not even understanding sort of your environment. Another point that he makes as well is this shouldn't be something where you go around and are doing it manually. This should be an automated function. This should be something that you can roll up in there, other tools out there to help you understand what all devices are connected and talking to other people that you may not even be aware of. And that's where it starts. Whenever we have these conversations, whether it's on the Security Breach podcast or whatever the case is, step 1 is get your inventory.
Yeah.
Know all the devices that are out there and that are connected.
So how does the federal government solve this problem? Just come really hard over the top and pretty much brick all these devices trying to do something?
Yeah, I think we're going back to typewriters and abacus and note card, index cards and all that good stuff. Lots of binders, David.
Maybe not the binders, but Anna, when Jeff said that we could fill our office with typewriters, I just had this romanticized vision of growing up and what I thought working in a newsroom would be like.
Yeah.
And for a minute, there was hope. No.
Did you envision yourself with the fedora and the crumpled tie and cigarette hanging out of your mouth?
Mad Men style, just clicking and clacking?
Pretty much not the cigarette, because I never got that. My body just never responded well to those. My desk was in similar disarray. Yeah, but no, just all of us working. I mean, yeah, there'd still be a lot of smokers, so we'd have that haze, but the clickety clack of the typewriter.
What kind of bar do you think Anna would have in her office? Would it be
A
as
good
epic
one.
as
Quality one.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, the way you said that, you're like, you should come to my desk now. Just check the bottom drawer.
Check out what's over there. Yeah.
Anna, what'd you think of Jeff's story this week?
Yeah, interesting. And I think also one of the things that jumped out at me too was just how much the Small Business Administration biffed this question. I think that is a good reminder of how, like you said, manufacturers are doing the same thing. And if they don't understand this and there's no one there who does, they really need to be more proactive about trying to nurture the talent and recruit the kind of people that they actually need in their organizations to be able to help with this stuff. And I know you mentioned some resources that are a little bit more external, but having somebody on your staff that is, I don't know, maybe under the age of 30 and can, has a background in IT and can actually make decisions and solve problems that are effective and help you here is pretty important. So
you can just slide this worker your mouse and be like, hey, can you download the cybersecurity onto this?
If that's what it takes, yeah.
All right, well, let's do our final thoughts before we get out of here this week. And what's your final thought?
So winter break was a little bit low key in my house. My kids were sick and my husband was sick pretty much the entire time. So we had a quiet 10 days or so, which I wish that we had not been sick. I did not want people to be sick, but it was a kind of nice to just snuggle up with my little buddies, and we watched a lot of Snoopy and read books, and so it was low key, and that was okay. Happy to be back though. It was by the end there, I had kind of lost track of where I was in life. So
completely understand. You had those. That Monday, Tuesday leading up to New Year's, where I did forget what day it was.
Yeah.
Where it's just when is New Year's? That's on a Friday. Is it Thursday? And just, so I was, I too really enjoyed the family time. And I had a very similar final thought. I enjoyed the family time. It was great to be able to step back for more than just a long weekend and really plan a couple of things, go a few places with the kids, have a great time with the family. but I was ready to come back and see everybody here and get back to the podcast. Also, part of my final thought was just, on our last episode, we did say that we were going to come back on Monday with recording for Tuesday, and just logistically, we weren't able to do that just because of a combination of sickness and general ramp up.
Yeah, I would have had a hard time. You could probably hear some of the cough drop rumbling in my mouth here. So I'm sorry about that. Supposed to be stepping away to cough as to not.
Hey.
It's always good when it's a collective Tim podcast. Like, yeah, that's fine. Thursday's fine. Thursday's fine. But I just apologize for giving the programming notes and then not doing that. But if you follow me on Blue Sky, I wouldn't have said anything there either. But I will in the future.
Blue Sky.
Blue Sky, Jeff.
Blue Sky, Jeff.
I'm blue skying. I don't know what you do there. Do you flutter? Do I flutter on Blue Sky because it's a butterfly?
Oh, it's a butterfly?
I think so. I don't know. I'm like 20 blue skies in.
Wow.
That's, yeah.
Sounds like a seltzer or something.
I tried.
Alcoholic seltzer.
Yeah. I like a classy one, not one that, has cotton candy flavor.
Even though that would be your favorite. Or some fruit flavor.
I mean.
Cherry pie flavored.
Oh, God.
My final thought is, yes, it is getting really cold out. We're in the midst of winter, but that's not always bad because there are a lot of stuff that I'm actually looking forward to this month. January is not great in Wisconsin, unless you like to do some ice fishing, which I am looking forward to doing a couple different times. Actually making a trip to get some gear this weekend makes my wife a little nervous. But, so there are some things that we can still look forward to, even though the holidays are over. I'm not a big cross-country skier or any of that type of stuff, but there are other opportunities out there too.
Yeah, it's okay to look forward to the holidays being over. Like a lot of us had a lot of holidays, or even, sometimes 1 to 2 was a lot for people, depending on the family. And so it's okay to look forward to the desolate landscape that is January and just thinking, you know what?
You don't have to describe it as desolate.
Wintry.
It's very cold.
Beautiful grayness. No.
Fair.
All right. Well, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. For Jeff Ranke and Anna Wells, I'm David Manti. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we will see you next week.